going on, Cowboys Nation? I was about to say Friday. It is Saturday because it is 1 in the morning, or at least Central Time. This game was a late one. The Cowboys fall to the Arizona Cardinals by a final of 19-16 in their second of four preseason games to open up the 21-22 NFL season. Before we get into all the talking points and everything, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, which the majority of you who watch my video streams and all that stuff do or are, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, drop a like on the video and leave a comment down below if you're watching this back tomorrow, or come hang out, be active in my chat if you're watching this live. I want to know what you guys have to say about this second preseason loss the Cowboys took to Arizona tonight. Let's go ahead and get into it, though. I'm riding solo tonight. Alec and Elliot, they're either asleep or at work. I know Alec's at work. Elliot usually works at like 4 in the morning, so he's probably asleep. So I'm not going to bother him, and we're gonna jump into this just by myself. All right, first thing I want to get out of the way, some injuries. There were some pretty big blows to this Cowboys team early on, especially Neville Gallimore, who came up injured after a collision with Brent Urban in a pileup. I believe that was in the first quarter. He ended up suffering left elbow hyperextension. I'm not a doctor. I have no clue what that is, and I have no clue what the timetable is for that. We'll find out more tomorrow, though, because per the team evaluation, we'll continue with an MRI following the Cowboys' return to Dallas tomorrow. That's right. Oxnard is done. This was it. This was just a mini destination in their trip back to Dallas. They'll continue training camp for the next few weeks. They have some open practices that I might attend and vlog. I don't know yet. Just got to wait for this COVID to clear up and have more information on that. But as far as Neville Gallimore, that is all I have for you guys, and that's a huge blow. I mean, Neville Gallimore coming back for his second year, high hopes. I'm personally a huge fan of Neville Gallimore. Reminds me a lot of Jabril McCoy, not only his style of play, but his personality. Fun fact for you guys, him and Jabril McCoy kind of mentored before Jabril McCoy obviously got injured and cut by the Cowboys. That's Jabril McCoy usually when he goes to new teams, he takes guys under his wing, and Neville Gallimore was that guy for Jabril McCoy. So, taught him a lot. Had a really good stretch at the end of the season last year, and I was excited to see what he had going for him this year. And looks like we're gonna have to wait and see what the damage is as a result of that. Left elbow hyperextension. Yeah, that's what it is. Again, not a doctor. I have no clue what that is or the timetable. Sean McKeon, he was the tight end 3, or looked to be the lock for the tight end 3. He rolled his ankle after catching a pass, did not return in this game. Don't know the timetable on his return either. And then Malik Turner, one of the back-end receivers on the Cowboys depth chart, he left after a minor foot injury in the third quarter. He walked off under his own power, so it doesn't look too serious. We don't know the timetable of return for any of these guys, so if you're looking for that here, I apologize. Once I find out that information, I'll make videos on it as soon as possible. All right, the quarterbacks. Garrett Gilbert, Cooper Rush, Ben DiNucci. Dak Prescott did not play in this game. He probably won't play against the Texans. He might get a few series or so against Jacksonville. Those are the 2 remaining preseason games the Cowboys have. But for now, it's just going to be that steady rotation of Gilbert, Cooper, and Ben DiNucci. As far as what Garrett Gilbert did today, not bad. 7 for 16, 80 yards. A little shaky at the start. Had a lack of play clock awareness early on and took a delay of game on third down. He ended that first drive on third and long with a wild throw in the direction of 4 Cardinals defensive backs. That was, I believe, intended for CeeDee Lamb. High pass out of reach to CeeDee Lamb at another point in the game, threw right into the body of a DB covering Malik Turner at the end of the second drive, but those 2 plays were on bad snaps, and we'll get to Connor Williams here in a second, but you don't necessarily have to throw him under the bus for that, but then again, he rushed those throws when in some cases I don't think he really needed to rush his throw, because from what I remember, there wasn't really pressure on him. I could be wrong, though. Overall, he just had issues putting the ball in spots where receivers could easily make the catch, just finding their body. He did, I think, a little better than in the Hall of Fame game, though, so I'll give him credit for that. But right now, he's his team's clear-cut backup. You just got to hope that Dak Prescott doesn't go down, because without Dak, we're screwed. Cooper Rush, he looked decent, got the ball to the receivers, had a few bad throws, but no more than Gilbert. This is my practice squad quarterback, personally, is Cooper Rush. Obviously, he did, in my opinion, a little better than Gilbert tonight, but, I don't really, like I said, I don't think that's a competition. I think Garrett Gilbert pretty much has that spot locked up unless Cooper Rush surprises us at some point over the next 2 preseason games. Then I don't think there's really much to be said there. Just with Cooper Rush, there's a lack of consistency. And like I just said, unless he surprises us, I don't think there's much there to talk about. Ben DiNucci, my God, yikes. Underthrew Reggie Davis on a blow-by streak. Overthrew Aaron Parker, on a blow-by streak. That was on 3rd down. He overthrew Aaron Parker again in the end zone. He misread a read option on the one that he should have kept and took for a touchdown in himself. He made some terrible throws in the final drive of the game. And with all that being said, he is one of the 2 parties responsible for the Cowboys' only touchdown so far this preseason, the other being Aaron Parker, who was on the receiving end of that one passing touchdown tonight. Ben DiNucci, I mean, this whole time, these past few weeks, we've been saying Ben DiNucci is guaranteed at least a practice squad spot due to his relationship with Mike McCarthy, but he just looked awful out there, and he continues to look awful week after week. It's like he's not getting any better at all. And listen, I don't hate Ben DiNucci. I don't have a problem with Ben DiNucci other than the fact that he's just not a good quarterback, and I think if he doesn't get what he wants out of his style or his progression, what he's been working towards all offseason, because it was noted he had a pretty good offseason, at least strength-wise, next week, then I don't think he needs to be on this team anymore. Ben DiNucci, just not a good quarterback, and I don't think anything really needs to be said past that. Offensive line, talked about the 2 bad snaps. Connor Williams, that center experiment just needs to stop. It looks like the Cowboys realized that following the 2 bad snaps. They had Tyler Biadasz at center for the majority of the rest of the game. Connor Williams is this team's left guard and right guard if Zach Martin were to go down, or maybe that's Connor McGovern, however they decide to shuffle it up. But Connor Williams as a center, no. Let's not do that anymore because that was a disaster. Ty Nsekhe, he looked a lot better than in the Hall of Fame game. I'll give him that. I will give him that. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know. He's a 35-year-old swing tackle. Obviously, you at some point expect either La'el Collins or Tyron Smith or even both to go down and miss time. So for the Cowboys, their swing tackle is, I think, way more important than you could say for any other NFL team, such as maybe the Cincinnati Bengals or something like that. And Ty Nsekhe just didn't look like that guy in the Hall of Fame game, hasn't had a good camp, but he made progress. And something I said if you watched my preview game was he needs to do that, and he did that. So he's going to get more opportunities against Houston on Saturday, against Jacksonville the following Sunday, if he's still on the roster. I think he should get another opportunity on Saturday. I don't think the Cowboys should be quick to cut him after this game because I think he did a lot better than what a lot of fans and coaches alike expected. So we'll just have to see what the future holds for Ty Nsekhe over these next few weeks. But if he performs anything like he did in the Hall of Fame game over the next couple weeks, then Jerry, like I said in the preview, needs to start picking up the phone and making some calls because the swing tackle for the Cowboys, very, very, very important position, and I cannot stress that enough. As far as blocking, some iffy run blocking early on. Pass blocking off the edge was not good, most notably Brandon Knight, who at this point, he should be a lock for being cut. Brandon Knight did not have a good season last year, and it looks like he didn't get any better this year. He had a very rough game and tonight against Arizona. It got better, though, as the game went on, the run blocking and pass blocking off the edge, but there's obviously still work to be done. You guys have to consider these are backups. So you're not getting the Zach Martin, La'el Collins, Tyron-esque blocking out of them throughout the entire game. Some other notes to go over on the offense. Cedric Wilson, Malik Turner continued to look great. Obviously, like I said, Malik Turner exited the game with an injury. That's going to be a very interesting battle. Oh, and Reggie Davis. I forgot to mention Reggie Davis. He's fast. 1 reception, 32 yards. It was his only reception all game. He got targeted a few times, but it was by Ben DiNucci, so those throws were a little off. He could have had more had the throws been on point. And like I was saying just now, I mean, that's a competition. The Cowboys are likely to bring 6 receivers along with them, but with how well these receivers are playing, you have to wonder, will they bring maybe 7 and just use 1 as a special teams weapon? You got, obviously, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. That's half of your 6 supposed receivers that everyone thinks the Cowboys are going to be bringing with them into the season. And then those final 3, Cedric Wilson has to be a lock for 1 because he's a special teams guy. Then you got Noah Brown, another special teams guy. And Noah Brown had a few drops in this one. I think if anyone's on the hot seat that's proven between like Cedric, Malik, and Noah, I think it'd be Noah. But I don't really think that he's going to be the one that gets cut just because of what he's been able to do in the past. And then you've got Malik Turner and, as I mentioned, Reggie Davis. Also Simi Fioco, who looked pretty solid. He hasn't had that great of a camp, but 3 receptions for 28 yards. I mean, that's, I think, 8, right? That's 8 receivers. At most, I think you bring 7, and that's honestly pushing it. The Cowboys have plenty of receivers right now. Someone valuable is going to get cut, and they're going to get their opportunity on another NFL team. It's just a matter of who. There's no way of telling right now because they've all played really well. Like I said, I think if anyone was to be on the hot seat, it'd be Noah Brown in my opinion, but the Cowboys may not look at it the same way I look at it, and they probably won't because he will make the roster after all. It is what I've come to believe just based on how the Cowboys treat situations like these. But, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting situation to watch, and, whoever gets cut will most definitely end up on another NFL team. Because if the Cowboys, let's say they put Simi Fioco on the practice squad. I mean, if you're a team that lacks wide receiver depth, you'd be stupid not to pick him up. So, yeah, that's about all I got to say about the receiver. Be interesting to see how that story develops. As far as the running backs, Jaquan Hardy, where did he come from? 8 carries, 32 yards, looked pretty good to finish off the game. We're going to have to see how he improves because he will be more of a back end of the game type of guy as we get into this game against the Texans and the Jaguars in the coming weeks. Rico Dowdle had continued success, didn't really look any different than how he looked in the Hall of Fame game. He looked great in the Hall of Fame game, minus the fumble. He did fumble, so ball security, that's going to be a thing that the Cowboys are going to have to teach him a little more moving forward. But for a running back 3 and a guy that could potentially be used on special teams, I don't have a problem with Rico Dowdle tonight. Just got to, clean up the fumble and you're good. Moving on over now to the defense. Keanu Neal. Dan Quinn brought him over. Dan Quinn, obviously the new defensive coordinator. He was signed by the Cowboys on a 1-year deal. Pretty cheap. He had a pretty good game for the amount of time he was in. He made some noise, ripped the ball out of Max Williams while Micah Parsons swooped in for the tackle that was early on in the game. So he had a forced fumble. He also had a tackle for loss on Chase Edmonds, who is projected to be the Arizona Cardinals starting running back when their offense was marching. So you love to see that out of Keanu Neal. Kind of like what I was saying with the receivers, but also kind of not like what I was saying with the receivers. In this situation, you got who's starting, not who's going to be cut. How are they going to utilize that rotational linebackers? I think to start the game, what we saw was Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, and Jalen Smith, and that's probably the starting 3 linebackers you're going to see to open up the season on September 9th in Tampa Bay. But if Keanu Neal plays really, really well in these next 2 preseason games, it's going to have to force Dan Quinn to maybe rethink that. He played really, really well, in my opinion. And if I was Dan Quinn, I would take a serious look at potentially having him be a starter because we didn't see Jalen Smith do all that well tonight. Well, he did get playing time, and we'll dive more deep into that later. So, I mean, I know considering Jalen Smith not a starter to some people may sound weird, but I mean, if he's going to continue to play the way he played last year and showed signs of it tonight, then I think, like I said, Dan Quinn's got to look at Keanu Neal seriously and think this guy might be a starter for me week 1. Kelvin Joseph and Deshaun Wright, 2 rookie corners that we Cowboy fans have been talking about for the past 3-4 weeks. Let's start with Kelvin Joseph. Okay, I've had multiple people tell me that when I talk about Kelvin Joseph and his IQ problems, and most of them have been respectful, so I'm not like coming at them or anything, but I've had multiple people tell me that in a nice way I'm wrong about it. Well, you guys saw tonight, if you watched the game, why I wasn't. Kelvin Joseph, and I'm going to die on this hill, has serious football IQ problems, and we saw it when he committed a holding penalty on a 3rd and 16 that resulted and a first down. That is a rookie mistake. That is just not high football IQ, in my opinion. Immediately after that, he was burned by Christian Kirk. He didn't get physical enough with him. It looks like maybe the holding penalty shook him a little bit. And that's what I'm talking about with high football IQ. And beyond that, even just getting toasted by like double moves and and little stutter steps, which is what happened to him tonight. He did not have the best night tonight. Very rough go of things. I don't have the completions or yards on his targets, but I have to imagine just by the amount of times we saw him on camera during the game that it was not a good night for Kelvin Joseph, and you saw the worst of it. And I think what realistic Cowboy fans expected early on with that holding penalty, Kelvin Joseph, it's going to be a bumpy ride, guys, but that's how it is for every rookie, especially a corner that was taken not in the first round, a guy that was taken in the second round. And the same can be said for Nahshon Wright, a third-round corner. There's going to be some bumps along the road, but tonight he looked pretty solid. I will give him that. He looked great in coverage, locked up in the red zone to start the second half. He was glued to Andre. I'm going to try this last name. I think it's Bakiselia. I don't know if that's how you actually say it, so apologies if I'm wrong. But he locked him up. It was glued to him on a deep pass down the sideline. He did that twice. He had a beautiful tackle on special teams towards the end of the game. I forget who was bringing out the kick return, but he probably stopped him short of about, I want to say, 10 more yards on that return. So Nahshon Wright, I mean, Jesus. This guy looks great. I have really nothing more to say about Nahshon Wright than let's just continue to throw him out there and see how he does. Alec, we had Alec on last week, and he said it best. The Cowboys took a risk, and they took a risk on a guy that is a high risk, high reward corner. That to a lot of you may not sound ideal considering who the Cowboys have in their secondary and how it performed last year, but I mean, if he's paying off right now in the preseason, it can only go up from here. So I don't have any problems with Nahshon Wright right now from what we've seen, because coach's film isn't out yet. We're not on the practice fields. No one really knows yet the problem with Nahshon Wright. The only bad thing we really saw from Nahshon was when he got pushed off in the Hall of Fame game and started complaining about it, gave up on the play. And he rebounded. It seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's put his head down and he's determined and he's gotten better. There will be some bumps along the way, just like there was with Kelvin Joseph tonight. So not everything's perfect as it sounds as I'm describing it with Nahshon Wright, but so far he looks pretty good. And for a third-round talent that a lot of people expected him to go in the sixth round, it's not a bad pick. It's really not a bad pick. The Joneses did well, and shout out to the Cowboys scouting team for really picking this guy out of the hat and saying we need to take this guy in the third round before someone else takes that risk. All right, Jalen Smith, I mentioned his name a little bit earlier. Let's talk about him. He did what I wanted to. I saw what I wanted to see out of him. That's what I'm trying to say. In terms of playing time, if you watch the preview video, I talked about how Jalen Smith should get playing time, not only in this game, but in the games to come. And he got about a half's worth of it. First and second quarter, he was in for the majority of the time. Listen, I don't got no problem with that. Jalen Smith, obviously on very thin ice as a starter. He's counting, I think, $7.5 million towards the cap. So that's a pretty big deal for someone like that to be playing as bad as he did last season. I think you just need to get better, and that starts with playing time. And he got that today. There was, one specific play where he got beat pretty bad on a handoff to Chase Edmonds, got beat off the edge and just didn't recognize the play whatsoever. That's a tough play for a linebacker, especially considering you're the only one down there in the flats. But at the end of the day, it's just flashes of what we saw last season, which was him getting bad reads on these plays. Let me wipe this off real quick. It looks a little blurred. Apologies. But, listen, it just didn't look good. He got beat. Other than that, though, we didn't really see much of Jalen Smith. I can't tell you if that's a good thing or a bad thing. There's no coach's film out right now. So I can't really determine whether or not Jalen Smith did excellent, decent, solid, bad, or terrible this game. I can only tell you that he got beat pretty bad on that handoff to Chase Edmonds. So, just kind of as I was saying in the preview video, more playing time for Jalen. That's really all I want to see out of him, because you're only going to get better with playing time, especially in the preseason. You're getting snaps against guys, if you're in for a while deep into the second quarter, that aren't going to necessarily be starting. So, you got to start somewhere. If you're reinventing Jalen Smith, I think now's a great time to do it in the preseason. And like I said, playing time is just all I really want to see out of him, because he will eventually get better if you continue to put him out there. Micah Parsons, he looked great in this game. Really nothing more needs to be said. Specifically, what I noticed was a play where he threw off a defender and then picked up the running back for no gain. That's just what Micah Parsons does. He was fast. He covered pretty well. Didn't really let anything get by him. I'm sure when we watch Hard Knocks, they'll continue to center it around Micah. We'll see a little more of him in this game up close and personal. Maybe we'll get another phone call from Dan Quinn, kind of like we got in the first Hard Knocks at that Hall of Fame game. But, I mean, what more can you really say about Micah Parsons that hasn't been said already? He didn't play that much, which you should expect. I know he is a rookie, but this guy's a clear-cut starter, and you don't want to risk injury out there. So, I mean, Micah Parsons, he did great tonight. Pass rush, and then we'll go over some other players and wrap this thing up. Doris Armstrong. Actually, before I get into the players, let me just make note of the fact that it looked a lot better tonight. That was that was one of the biggest complaints from the Hall of Fame game on last Thursday, that there was no pass rush whatsoever. It got a lot better this week. And I will say everywhere, the Cardinals played terrible tonight. Defensively, they just did not look good. I understand the Cowboys only scored 16 points, but the Cardinals, if you put that defense out there against like Dak Prescott and Zeke for that first half of football, I mean, the Cowboys run away with this game. It was not a good defense whatsoever, especially the offensive line. I mean, offensively, it didn't look good either. And I mentioned the offensive line, just terrible. The tackles did not play well. It was bad football from the Cardinals, especially on the offensive line. And guys on the edge took advantage of that. Doris Armstrong, who had a huge game and needed this because he's a guy that a lot of Cowboy fans and coaches have had faith in over the years. He's been with the organization for quite some time now. And this is really a make it or break it year for Doris and Bradley and I, who we'll get to here in a second as well. He had 2 sacks this game, 5 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. One of those sacks was on third down where the Cardinals were in the red zone, and he also had a pass deflection at the end of the half. He balled out tonight, and I mean, I didn't expect this at all. Like, I thought Doris Armstrong was just going to stay under the radar and play like Doris Armstrong has played in the preseason over the past few years, which is like maybe do something good here and there, but overall be remembered as a guy that really didn't do much and eventually get cut. But at this point, you know, if he's going to play like this in this preseason game, and like I said, Cardinals offensive line was really bad, but if he's going to capitalize with 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection, then maybe he needs to get some more playing time. And it really kind of, I hate to say it, but it puts Jabril Basham on edge. Jabril Basham, you know, whenever he comes back, because he is hurt right now, and I'm a huge fan of Jabril Basham, but we got to see this type of production out of him, because I think Jabril Basham was the guy that the Cowboys expected this out of in the preseason, but instead we got it from Doris Armstrong here in the second game. And listen, I don't got a problem with it. If he can keep it up, then this is what the Cowboys were looking for all along in a Doris Armstrong from since when they drafted him. Bradley and I on the other side of him, he had that helmet to helmet. That was a pretty bad penalty early on, but overall got off the tackles pretty well. He also looked great. No complaints whatsoever other than the penalty with Bradley and I, and he's another guy that's been with the organization for a while. Some might tell you that he hasn't gotten a fair shot. I just think that's more so of his inability to perform in practice and really prove something to the Cowboys coaches. Listen, if a player's not out there getting a fair shot, and they're not like a Randy Gregory type guy like we saw. Randy Gregory didn't really get much playing time last year. If it's a guy like Bradley and I, they're likely doing something for the coaches, or they're giving the coaches a reason not to put him out there. So that's nice to see that Bradley and I was out there and making plays. We'll just have to see how him and Doris Armstrong progress in these next 2 preseason games, because this pass rush, just like the offensive line depth, is huge. DeMarcus Lawrence, he just came off the physically unable to perform list. He played through injury last year, and he's only getting older. That's not a good sign. Injuries in football, they happen. You hope Randy Gregory doesn't go down. He's experiencing a workload like none other, because this is going to be his first full season in the NFL. So these are things you have to consider. And that's why Jabril Basham performing in the preseason when healthy, and Doris Armstrong, Bradley, and I making plays is huge, because it gives you faith. It really does, because those are really the only 2 guys the Cowboys have at the pass rushing position is DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory. Only guys at least to make plays. All right, couple more things before we wrap this up. Jabril Cox, he made some plays. Had a tackle for loss in the red zone, stopped a big kick return on special teams, kind of like Nashawn Wright did. Rookie mistake when he got turned around on a reception late in the game. Overall, 8 tackles and 2 of them for loss. Jabril Cox, here's the thing with Jabril. I love him. I think it was a great addition, a steal in, I believe, the 5th round for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how he fell that far. Maybe there's some things like medicals that we don't know about, although I think if there were, it'd be out by now. To this day, it confuses the hell out of me how we got him in the 5th round. But listen, here's the thing about Jabril Cox. Really good guy. Not only on the field, but off the field as well. A great personality. And the unfortunate thing is the Cowboys linebacker room is just too crowded right now. So Jabril Cox is a starter. That would only occur if there were some injuries to happen to this team this year. I don't think you really see Jabril Cox other than on special teams in a consistent role next year, because you have to assume that either Leighton Vander Esch or Jalen Smith will be gone following the year, unless they play really well and surprise us. Then maybe they'll stick around. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But one of the two is most definitely confirmed to be gone, just by Cowboys fans, and just the logical NFL fan would know that. If not, maybe even both. Who knows? It's going to be hard for the Cowboys to find a team that's going to take on Jalen Smith's contract if that were to happen. But with one of them potentially being gone at the end of the year, Jabril Cox will get his opportunity probably in the 22 to 23 NFL season. And that's tough to say because he's such a young kid that deserves a shot in a consistent role. And like I said, maybe he'll get that if an injury were to happen. Obviously, you hope that an injury doesn't happen. But if it were, then that's when you're going to see Jabril Cox consistently this year. Special teams, though, he's going to be out there quite a bit this year. And I'm just excited to see what he can do so far the rest of the way in the preseason. Cowboys, ironically enough, had a very bad year at linebacker last year, and yet somehow it's probably going to be the strength of their defense this year. Jabril Cox, he's a baller. And like I said, I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the way this preseason. Osa Odighizuwa and Quinnen Bohannon, the last two players I want to go over before I end this. I talked about them a little bit in the preview as young guys that can only benefit from playing well early on. Obviously, the Cowboys had some serious struggles last year in the defending the run department. They were 31st in rush yards allowed, I should say. And they got Carlos Watkins, they got Brent Urban, Neville Gallimore. Hopefully that injury isn't too serious and he's ready to go early in the season. But beyond them, Brent Urban's 30. So you have to assume that Quinnen Bohannon, Osa Odighizuwa are catapulted into that role in the years to come. Kind of like I was talking about with Jabril Cox. You're not going to see these guys consistently probably until next year or unless an injury were to happen. So that's why early success, which is what they both experienced today. Osa had a tackle for loss, and Quinnen Bohannon made some plays towards the end of the game. Excuse me. I've been talking for about 30 minutes straight. Excuse me for a second. This is what happens when you don't have a guest to come on your show. I mean, it is 1:30 in the morning, so I don't blame them. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Osa, Quinnen, just young guys benefiting off early success, learning from the older guys. Like I said, Brent Urban is 30. There's some veterans in there. Terrell Basham is somewhat halfway into an NFL career. DeMarcus Lawrence is one of those older guys. Some consider him a leader on the defense. I wouldn't put it past him. So, this is a great situation for Osa Odighizuwa and Quinnen Bohannon to be in it, and I just like seeing them flourish in the preseason as guys that can maybe come in on third downs. If they're on the goal line, Quinnen Bohannon is a big dude, and he can do just that. If they needed him to come in and do that. But like I said, consistently as starters, probably not for another year or so, or unless an injury were to happen. All right, y'all, that is about everything I got for you. I'm trying to think of what else I'm going to have the rest of the week because it is Saturday. So I'll probably re-upload this stream tomorrow morning, have some clips over the next few days. And then as we head into next week and get closer to the Texans preseason game on Saturday, I'll obviously have a game preview, update you guys on Neville Gallimore's injury, Sean McKeon and Malik Turner's injury, and then what else? Dak Prescott's throwing arm. Probably give you some updates on that, so keep an eye out for those videos. And that's about everything I got for you. Oh, also, after the Texans game, which I might be going to, I might vlog that. If I'm cleared from COVID, if my test is negative in a few days, then I'm going to go to that game and I might vlog it. I don't know. We'll see. But after that game, it's going to be coming to the time where the Cowboys will start cutting some people. So we'll have some roster projections at that point. Hopefully, I want to do a stream next week, or maybe two. We're getting closer and closer to the season. I'm excited. The content that we are going to be bringing y'all, me, Elliot, and Alec, and maybe some more people I'll have join the channel. It's just going to be great. I'm excited for everything to come, and hopefully you guys are excited with me. If, like I said, you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments below as you're watching this back, or if you're watching this right now, what you thought of the stream, what you thought of the video, what you thought of everything. And yeah, that is it for tonight. I'm going to get some rest, go to sleep, and I will see y'all in the next one.